Everyone thought the emperor had sent it, but I knew it was his own doing. Bringing down the noble consort didn't bring the empress much joy, and the entire inner court became lifeless. From that day on, the emperor never returned. I heard he fell ill, but forbade any concubines from visiting. I obediently carried Joshu to plead with the empress. Seeing me insist on adopting him, she laughed mockingly, asking if I knew his mother had been completely cast aside by the emperor, with no backing left and no hope of rising again. Yet I dared to adopt him. I simply held the baby and pleaded before the cold palace steps. The child is innocent. Back then, I was the same, holding Yunxing and begging the emperor to grant me a way to survive. That day, it was the noble consort who spoke up for me, saying only a mother can raise her own child well. Because of those words, the emperor promoted me, a low-ranking concubine, to consort. The empress didn't agree, wanting me to tell the emperor myself. Without a word, I took the noble consort's child away. A few days later, the emperor appeared before me with a cold face, asking if he had indulged me too much. I knew this definitely struck a nerve. His existence is a constant reminder to the emperor of what he once did to the noble consort. I pointed to the two little ones not far away. Yunxing was leading Joshu by the hand. The little child, who never liked to take a step on her own, was now stretching out her arms and running happily toward her brother. To the emperor, besides being the noble consort's daughter, she is also Yunxing's sister. Blood relations are truly marvelous. Look at Yunxing. When has that boy ever been this gentle? He watched from afar for a moment, then turned and walked away. The emperor has never known the taste of such kinship. He didn't even have it in his own childhood. But seeing his own children so harmonious, he felt a sting in his heart. If he had had a loving mother and a warm-hearted sister in his youth, would he have turned out the way he is now? He doesn't know, and he doesn't want to know. It seems the emperor was truly angered this time. It took me a long while to realize he must think I've overstepped. Anyone with sense can see that Joshu cannot escape being detested by him, and I, a woman surviving on his favor, should have protected myself. But I didn't fear his rage. My boldness, though I only realized this after I was forced to move out of Jiaqing Palace, drove Kuei to the point of getting blisters on her lips from anxiety. Both openly and privately, she urged me to send Joshu away, but I played deaf. Who else would love and cherish him if not me? That little maid who is so good at cheering me up was baking cakes nearby. She said, "It's nothing, your majesty. You've always had the persona of being simple-minded in the emperor's eyes. I don't think you need to coax him. The emperor will soothe himself." How does that saying go? As long as you insist on being yourself, even the emperor will have to compromise. Quote, I scratched my head. Is that really how it works? My dear son is quite optimistic. On the very first day we moved into Zhongqiuai Palace, he started planning to dig a pond and plant lotus flowers. The new courtyard is several times larger than the old one, though it's a bit remote, and ordinary concubines don't come around here. Come to think of it, it really is a good place to raise a mischievous child. Life afterward was quite peaceful. Well, that's not entirely accurate. Everything else is fine, but the meals are inconsistent. One day they're good, the next they're poor. Sometimes there are 10 courses, and sometimes just 2 plates of greens. It's like living at the mercy of the weather. But isn't my weather a bit too unpredictable? 7 days later, the emperor's head eunuch came to plead with me in private. Your Majesty, please just apologize to the emperor. What did I do wrong? Isn't this just looking for trouble where there is none? The child wasn't even born to me and noble consort you. How is it my fault for raising her? That said, I still wrote a perfunctory letter to be delivered to the emperor. Hunger is a cruel thing. No reply came, but the meals finally stabilized. The palace rations became much better than before, and sometimes we even received fancy pastries as rewards. If I had known that admitting fault was this effective, I would have done it ages ago. Yuanxing went to study at the South Study during the day, and at night, he would bring new toys for his little sister. He even snuck out of the palace to catch strange things. He brought them back for us to play with. Creatures that were neither fish nor shrimp, bright red with 2 terrifyingly large pincers. The little girl loved them, though. We all gathered around, eating the delicacies he prepared, overjoyed and carefree. As for the trouble I caused by adopting the little girl, Yuanxing never said a word. He adored his little sister, pampering her to the skies. The first thing he did every day after class was go home and act as a pony for her. He said, in the past, Mother Yu always slipped me food when she went to see Empress Rongyan. She was so kind to me, so I want to give her daughter plenty of love. I want to make her the happiest child. Quote, Zhongqiuai Palace was quiet, not as lively as the Jiaqing Palace used to be, but I didn't feel there was anything wrong with that. I ate and drank just as well. The Empress summoned me once, and her words were inevitably filled with mockery and cold winds. You lost your favor for a yellow-haired brat. You've suffered a great loss this time, haven't you? Quote, I smiled and pushed the little girl toward her. Come, call her Empress Mother. The little girl, in her milky voice, Mother. With that soft sound, she pulled on the Empress's sleeve. The Empress's eyes, usually filled with schemes and calculation, suddenly cleared up, and she even began to stutter. What are you calling me, Mother, for? I can't let you get the better of me for nothing. Yunfang, go to my storehouse and fetch some trinkets that children like. Yunfang gave me a look of silent frustration, stompingly marched off to the storeroom in a huff, and returned stiffly carrying a few strings of deep-sea pearls. He was gritting his teeth, but mid-grind, he caught sight of Joshu. His expression shifted from dark to bright, then back to dark. After a few changes, he finally squeezed out a smile. Little princess, why don't you thank the Empress? My precious little one, whom I've raised to be plump and adorable, giggled as soon as she saw him. She was so well behaved. Who wouldn't be charmed? Joshu chirped happily. Thank you, mother. Thank you, mother. Quote, the Empress was silent for a long moment, then remarked strangely, you and your brother are truly cut from the same cloth. Both know exactly how to charm people. I let out a sigh, led Joshu across the palace grounds, and prepared to head to the south study to seek an audience. The Emperor still wouldn't see me, but he did grant me a seat, leaving me to wait at the doorway while people shielded me from the sun or fanned me. They just wouldn't let me enter the room. Sometimes I really want to retire. The favored concubines in the palace have disliked me for a long time. After Consort Yu died, they treated me as their #1 eyesore and frequently came to my courtyard to sneer and mock. I couldn't be bothered. Whatever they said, I just agreed. Yes, quite right, indeed. Later, they lost interest. How should I describe that feeling? It's like punching a pile of mud. You just end up with muck all over your hands. Only noble Lady Yi would come to find me without any ulterior motives. At first, I didn't understand why, until my wonderful son finally pointed out the mystery. The other 3 high-ranking consorts in the palace are all tough nuts to crack. Only you look like a soft persimmon, he said, then began to sigh. But he is still young. He doesn't understand why soft persimmon goes unsqueezed. Is it really because others don't want to squeeze it? I nibbled on melon seeds, feeling a bit troubled. So, can I still eat the jade ruyi cantaloupes she sent over? My wonderful son pondered. You are older, so you should be fine. My sister and I are still young. It would be very troublesome to save us. Quote, wow, you're a bit too reckless. Since you couldn't find fault with me, you set your sights on Joshu. You know the Emperor dislikes him, so even if you were to touch the baby, the Emperor wouldn't say a word. Joshu just learned to walk, so the nursemaids took him out to a spacious area to play. That day, I had a stomach ache from pregnancy and couldn't go, but trouble arose. Someone used the excuse of him bumping into a concubine to force Joshu and the nurse to kneel in the imperial garden. By the time it reached my ears, much time had passed. When I arrived at the garden, furious, a circle of concubines had already gathered. I thought they were there to mock him, but their insults were even harsher. And they weren't directed at Joshu, but at noble Lady Yi. Noble Lady Yi, were you raised without parents? You have no conscience, bullying even a child. How could you lay a hand on such a cute child? The ones hurling the insults were Consort Shu and Consort Xian. They were quite fierce years ago, but whether due to age or being thoroughly beaten by noble Consort Yu, they rarely go out anymore. Noble Lady Yi was speechless, unable to get the upper hand against so many voices. Seeing her turn to head to the Emperor to complain, she was kicked to the ground by the Empress, who had arrived on the scene. The Empress is a descendant of a military family and has great strength. Before Noble Lady Yi could stand while clutching her stomach, Aunt Yunfang grabbed her by the hair. Noble Lady Yi, ignoring the princess and offending the Empress. Do you know your crime? Besides, where in the palace rules does it say a princess must bow to a lowly noble lady? Exactly. This is absurd. Noble Lady Yi is far too presumptuous. I suggest confining her to her palace to transcribe scriptures, praying for the emperor's well-being, and seeking her own penance. Everyone chimed in, one after another, and in no time they had settled someone's fate. Holding Joshu, I suddenly felt lost, like a swordsman with nowhere to turn. I felt I should say something, but in this situation, it wasn't my place. The last time I felt this suffocated was during the time of Empress Ruan. These people always have their strange principles. For instance, don't strike the face, don't curse one's mother, and never target a newborn child. That night, Joshu cried so miserably. The little one was sobbing even in his sleep. The sight reminded me of when Yenxing was 2 and was beaten on the palms by Empress Shenyuan. The poor child knelt in the rain, held down while being struck, not even daring to cry out loud. I could only watch from afar as it happened, gripping his hand, unable to stop my tears. The Emperor arrived at that very moment. He slowly patted my back and pulled me into his arms.
Think nothing of it. You and Joshu have suffered a grievance.
I sobbed as I uncovered the child's knees to show him, his fair, tender skin caked with a layer of frozen sleet. Your Majesty, how could they dare? How could they dare to treat your child this way? Quote, the Emperor gently touched Joshu's cheek, the resemblance to his biological mother quite evident. A flash of heartache crossed his eyes, and he coldly gave his orders. Li Dequan, go announce it. Noble Lady Yi has behaved improperly, failing to respect the Empress or the Princess. She is stripped of her title, demoted to a commoner, and confined to the cold palace. Quote, the news of Noble Lady Yi's downfall barely caused a ripple in the inner palace. Over these years, favorites have come and gone in waves. Even Consort Yu, who monopolized the Emperor's favor for nearly a decade, eventually fell. Let alone a minor noble lady who had only been in favor for a year. The Emperor's feelings toward Joshu were deeply conflicted. He sent piles of treasures to him, yet rarely visited. Sometimes, he would suddenly appear in the dead of night, standing by the bedside, silently gazing at his little face. I once saw him drunk in the middle of the night, holding the spirit tablet of Consort Yu, crying out and questioning her.
You promised to stay with me for a lifetime. How dare you die? How dare you?
After all, it was a youthful true love. Even with schemes, how could there not be a bit of genuine affection? Yet, such affection meant nothing before the underworld. I watched blankly, then finally closed the door and left. Flowers bloomed and fell, and another year passed. A new scandal broke out in the courtyard. A maid was favored by the emperor because she resembled the late consort Yu, and by the next day, she was named a Chongzai. In the following months, this Chongzai received the emperor's exclusive favor. He practically lived for her alone, even though he visited less often. This year, the inner court welcomed another prince, born to consort Xian. She was extremely cautious with this pregnancy, never stepping outside. Fortunately, she gave birth safely last month. With this baby boy, everyone looked at me quite strangely. In the past, Yanqing was the only prince, so everyone showed me some respect, but now the situation has been stirred up. The emperor is in his prime. It's hard to say who will become the crown prince, but I feel unaffected. I even take Yanqing to see the baby every day, for which Zhang has scolded me several times. I really don't know what to say to you. Let me think. You are truly simple-minded. Are you happy to go? Is consort Xian happy to have you there? If anything happens to her precious son, she will be the first to blame you. I scratch my head. If I don't go, wouldn't she still pin the blame on me? Besides, it was consort Xian herself who asked me to go. But my lady is too fierce. I don't dare talk back. Her talent for mocking others in this residence is something to behold. Sometimes she scolds me, sometimes she curses consort Liu, and today she started scolding the emperor. Men really don't cherish what they have while it's alive, only to start looking for substitutes once they're gone. Now this is fine. I'm even expected to grant privileges to such low-status things. What? Frail health, inconvenient for audiences. What is this? Was she frail when she was a palace maid? Now she's a person of status? I never saw consort Yu act this frail. It's ridiculous. My lady, please stop scolding. She glanced at Joshu and immediately shut her mouth. Oh, it's not like I'm intentionally corrupting the child. Before long, the emperor came to see Joshu. The two were playing together when the emperor snatched the baby's rattle and wouldn't give it back. Joshu clenched his little fists and unleashed a flurry of strikes on the emperor. Give it back! Give it back! Give it back! The emperor was a bit puzzled, wondering what the little one was grumbling about. Zhang realized he had caused trouble and covered his mouth, staying silent. I patted his head and chuckled. He is greeting you. He hugged Joshu, then suddenly remembered something.
Lu Fei is currently pregnant, so the Empress is carefully attending to her. From now on, everything she uses must be inspected by others.
The emperor agreed gently, but as soon as he left, she began to grumble. Is this really what it means to be an empress? She is clearly a demon. If she really gives birth to a son, won't she be walking all over me? This Lu Fei is the woman who originally resembled consort Yu. Since gaining favor, she has risen rapidly. Last year, she was made a consort, becoming the first in this dynasty to do so without merit. Despite the late emperor's ancestral instruction that one cannot be titled a consort without merit, the emperor ignored all opposition from his ministers and insisted on giving her the rank. Now, rumors are flying across the court. Everyone says that if Lu Fei gives birth to a son, the emperor will name him the crown prince. This was originally just talk, but the emperor actually wants to build an estate outside the palace for Yanqing. I was a bit stunned and forgot to maintain my composure. Is it that urgent? Lu Fei's child hasn't even been born yet, so why send Yanqing away already? I couldn't help but speak up. In this dynasty, there are only 3 reasons for a prince to move out of the palace: marriage, being granted a fief, or receiving a title. At his age, Yanqing fits none of these. The emperor didn't seem to expect me to be so blunt. His hand holding the soup spoon even paused for a moment. The child is not young anymore. It is time to consider these things. Don't be unaccustomed to it. It doesn't matter to me. Yanqing has been navigating between the various factions in the palace since he was small. The boy is clever. Perhaps he will flourish better outside the palace. It's just that the one raising the child right now is the emperor. If we really are to separate households, I suspect someone else will be the one struggling to adjust.
I was never favored by my father or mother when I was young. When I was his age, I was already on the battlefield.
I feigned a sigh. How could he possibly compare to your majesty? If he were half as capable as you, this concubine would be satisfied. He didn't respond, but instead changed the subject. Have people in the palace been saying lately that I sent Yanqing out to clear the way for Lu Fei? I dared not answer, and he laughed. Over time, I've rarely encountered the emperor. Most of the time, I only see him from afar at banquets, always accompanied by that figure in light green. They are inseparable and deeply affectionate, so it would be tactless to intrude. When he occasionally visits my quarters, it's only for matters regarding the concubines or allowances. He seems quite busy. He even entrusted the recipes for my favorite snacks to Yuexin, my maid who loves studying cuisine. Yuexin often tries to comfort me, saying, "The emperor still cares for you." In this palace, apart from the empress and concubine Liu, who else enjoys such special treatment? Quote, seeing me unresponsive, she acts a bit timid. How about I come up with a plan? Let's brainstorm how to win back the emperor's heart. Quote, I'm a bit conflicted. Plotting against people doesn't seem right, does it? She must be crazy. Fine. Blaming myself for speaking up, Yuexin sneers. The sky is falling, and Our Lady only cares about whether there's good food today. I flipped through novels all night and let out a sigh. Even if the King of Heaven himself were here, he'd have to admit that this life is just plain miserable. Perhaps my complaints were too loud, and the heavens actually heard me. Early the next morning, the Empress Dowager summoned me. That's right, there is actually an Empress Dowager in this palace. Impudent, why aren't you kneeling? Quote, I knelt down, filled with resentment and confusion. I begged the Empress Dowager to enlighten me. What crime have I committed? This was found in your palace. What else do you have to say for yourself? I stared at the voodoo doll on the floor, feeling completely speechless. Isn't this just the classic voodoo doll trick from the list of